Daredevil, Born Again Episode 4. Bringing back a very interesting character, Frank Castle, also known as the Punisher. This will also mark the official appearance of the Punisher in the MCU. This episode will still carry a deep, somewhat somber tone, as Daredevil continues to be absent, but it will also deepen the anticipation of Daredevil's return and how it will explode. Mark is gradually losing faith in the law, and his anger is about to become uncontrollable. Episode 4 is titled Sic Semper Systema. This serves as a reminder to Matt that the legal system is still flawed, a theme that has been present in the promotion of the Punisher logo. The episode opens with staff packing up and Hector, who was murdered at the end of episode 3. A fatal close-range shot. Many still believe that White Tiger is not dead, but this episode confirms that he is gone. Hector's belongings are packed, including the White Tiger suit and the amulet, signaling the beginning of its legacy and the potential for a new hero to emerge in the near future. Then, Angela appears with a sorrowful expression. She even wears white pants, possibly hinting at a successor to Hector's powers and will, as seen in the comics. Matt faces a child whose family member has been murdered. The girl's fury mirrors Matt's own anger when he lost his father. It is a deep trauma, but controlled at the right moment, one of the reasons Matt becomes Daredevil. This also repeats with Angela herself. She expresses something that AI would recognize, that the murderer is likely to be a police officer. This will be an act of revenge, a punishment for attacking the reputation and power of the police, which has always been considered untouchable. This reflects the frustration with the city's security system, and no one can stop it. Like a floodgate opening, the power for both is quietly activated. As a lawyer, Matt is also hiding his emotions better, so he must try to restrain himself and reassure the girl that someone will find the villain, and people should believe in this. The scene then shifts to a street corner, where the painting by Muse on the first floor now has clearer colors. It represents the two sides of Kingpin's identity. The white suit symbolizes the bright side of a city mayor, while the black suit in flames represents his dark, violent side in the criminal underworld. However, the truth is, it's a contrasting reflection. In reality, when he's the crime boss, Kingpin wears white, and when showing his better side, he tends to wear gray. We also get a glimpse of Muse's criminal actions. He has started committing horrific crimes in the dark of night. Soon, the number of victims will be large enough to cause a shockwave throughout the city. The story then shifts to Bibi trying to extract more information from Daniel, which turns into something worse for Kingpin. On the wall near the bar, there is a painting by Muse depicting the White Tiger's mask with angel wings shaped like tiger eyes. It serves as a memorial to the fallen Night Guardian. There's also a theft case that Matt is preparing to handle, as the police have caught a citizen stealing corn bags from a nearby supermarket. Matt himself is frustrated because this doesn't seem like something worth a prison sentence. Angela also once exclaimed that there's a great injustice in this city, even to the point where a man was arrested for stealing 2 bags of corn, but the police, upon catching him, casually ate one of those bags of corn. It's a mockery of those who are supposed to enforce justice. The episode once again reaffirms that those who claim to act in the name of justice can do whatever they want, while the terrible consequences are always pushed onto the citizens. Matt is standing on the rooftop watching the sunrise. It's hard to describe exactly, but Matt is carrying the broken horn of Daredevil with him, showing that he is still contemplating awakening the demon of justice, and it will also be a torment within him because the horn is tied to a great loss that Matt has always endured. In such a space, it metaphorically suggests that Matt, in this episode, has expansive yet empty spaces, a loneliness that he still cannot seem to get used to. Later, Matt receives a call about providing free legal defense for the case of the man who stole the corn bags the night before. In Royce's case, it shows Matt's sense of helplessness. Meanwhile, Wilson Fisk and Vanessa continue attending psychological therapy sessions to mend their emotions after a long period of separation, during which there were too many unspeakable things from both sides. If you pay close attention to the therapy sessions throughout the episodes, you'll see that they've grown a bit closer to each other, showing that their relationship is gradually improving, although with the psychologist, it's still unclear as they are still hiding too many things. The main topic of the therapy session is discussing Adam, Baby 2, in their relationship. Vanessa describes Adam as an artist. This is also a part of the essence that Vanessa chose and loved about Wilson Fisk, so this description makes Wilson uneasy. Considering how often Vanessa has mentioned her ex-lover, Wilson Fisk always reacts with a pause, showing how controlling he is. But like Matt, he always knows how to restrain himself so that this side of him is hard to reveal. You'll notice that whenever Wilson is not telling the truth, he avoids looking directly at the person he's speaking with. Vanessa also describes the painful experiences she had with her father. This explains why she chose Wilson, because they share so many common points of passion and suffering, making it easy for them to be drawn to each other. Although Vanessa is also fully aware that Wilson himself tends toward violence, just like the person he used to hate. So, the idea of David Fisk will be an opportunity for Vanessa to experience controlling that violence. Instead of avoiding the painful past, she will choose to dominate it. Vanessa also shared that she never respected her mother when she was trampled like that, but now she understands what her mother had to go through during those years. It's as if this is a reason for Vanessa to believe that Wilson is also betraying her in a way just as painful. Karen emphasized at the end of the therapy session that without forgiveness, there can be no healing. It's not just an act of love, but the only way to move forward. This also reflects Matt's belief as he always seeks forgiveness for the sins committed by many villains. But for Wilson, he lacks this because he was taught to seek revenge instead of forgiveness. As for Matt, he's now at the jailhouse working with Royce, a poor thief but also quite stubborn. Royce even tries to justify that Skye impersonated him to steal the corn bags from the supermarket. It's a subtle reminder that this is the MCU, and it exists alongside a world where reality and fiction are still intertwined. Royce mocks Matt, calling it blind justice, a sarcastic remark in the literal sense, but the metaphorical meaning is quite profound. Did you notice that the statue of Lady Justice at the beginning of the introduction was blindfolded? On his way out, Matt runs into Paul and immediately wants to check if he's involved in Hector's death by asking a direct question to listen to his heartbeat. Paul gets a bit angry and presses his police badge into Matt. This action literally shows that Paul is using his power as a weapon to suppress anyone. House also shared that his entire family works in law enforcement, and it has its own honor. It sounds like a moral reputation with a legacy, but it also carries an implication about a ruling class in the city. However, at least Matt has figured out that this guy has limits when it comes to violence, and he no longer wants to be involved with Hector's death, almost as if he doesn't want to get entangled any further. It's not worth pushing it to the end. Wilson, on the other hand, is with his crew heading to Red Hook Port with the aim of rebuilding the area. Wilson wants to erase the stains and build something better, but he's confronted with a heap of bureaucratic procedures that must be followed, even though he's the mayor. Afterward, Wilson has to attend charity events, making him look pale. In one day, the meaningless music made Wilson truly go mad when his plans leaked out, making them difficult to carry out. Despite Sheila saying she could handle it, Daniel directly admitted his wrongdoing. Knowing this wouldn't end well, he used those precious moments to express his feelings and trust in Wilson Fisk. Wilson highly valued this spirit for its courage, honesty, and loyalty, which is not always easy to find. So, Wilson wanted to keep Daniel, seeing him as a valuable asset if used correctly. That evening, Matt goes to the scene where Hector was murdered to look for more evidence. What he finds is a bullet shell, a crucial piece of evidence that was missing from the case. Using his abilities, Matt tracks the trajectory of the fallen object and finds the bullet shell at a distant corner of the wall. Matt then heads straight to Punisher's place to talk because the bullet shell bears the Punisher skull logo. Frank himself mentions that there are many people who are obsessed with him, including the city's police officers. Frank is now like Matt. He left the game a long time ago, growing a long beard and using drugs. The two of them have never been able to integrate. Matt thinks Frank is a murderer, while Frank believes Matt will never solve crime problems with such merciful actions. Matt is here because he believes Frank should feel responsible for inspiring those fanboys, but in reality, it seems Matt is here to seek forgiveness for his own sins. But Frank forces Matt to truly face himself and mocks him for working in the justice system yet having a dark side that enforces justice through violence. Frank also bluntly judges Matt as guilty for disappointing Foggy. Matt is trying to live a carefree life like Foggy, thinking that since the world lost such a good and carefree man, he should step into that role. It's like a self-deception. When Matt returns, he goes to the rooftop and takes out his weapons to practice. There are also 5 Daredevil masks that we have seen in previous episodes. Meanwhile, Wilson Fisk is heading downstairs to the basement, casually having a meal while Adam, who's locked up there, is screaming. Now we understand why Wilson's hands are always bruised every morning, as every night he drags his wife's lover out and beats him. Finally, Muse is continuing his criminal actions, draining blood from his victims and using it to create bizarre works of art for himself. Daredevil Season 4 not only marks the return of the Punisher but also lays the groundwork for psychological changes in Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk. Matt is going through his weakest phase mentally. He has lost Hector, a new friend with many similarities to him, who could also be seen as an ally. This loss torments him because it reflects the cycle of suffering that he will never be able to escape. Hector's death is not just a loss, it serves as a reminder that every time Matt tries to help someone, they may have to pay with their life. Unlike Matt, the Punisher has a much clearer moral compass. He believes that justice can only be achieved through direct vengeance, and there will be no mercy. Kingpin, on the other hand, is in a situation completely unfamiliar to him. He will have to play by the rules. What makes this episode great is that it doesn't just turn Kingpin into a cold-blooded villain but shows that he has the ability to adapt and manipulate the system in a more sophisticated way. One memorable scene is when Kingpin appears at a charity event and tries to act gracious, but his eyes and tone of voice still reveal his hunger for power. While this episode has some excellent character moments, it also has some disappointing aspects, such as Daredevil appearing for only 15 minutes since the beginning of the season, with most of the remaining time spent without him wearing the Daredevil suit. The story in this episode focuses much more on the Punisher and Kingpin, making it hard to tell whether this is a Daredevil bonus or a Punisher bonus. However, if we consider the overall picture, this slow pace is still quite clever. It's carefully preparing for Daredevil's full return, building the tension and psychological depth to its highest point. Punisher is introduced as a mirror image of Matt. Kingpin is now playing chess in the shadows, no longer just the thug who punches his way through things. This episode isn't a peak, but it sets up the necessary foundation for the explosion to come. A recurring theme in this episode is whether justice truly exists or if it's just an empty concept to believe in the system. But every time Matt tries to follow the law, everything seems to work against him. The Punisher believes in personal justice, but his approach is too extreme and filled with consequences. On the other hand, Kingpin exploits the law, turning the system into a tool